Hi friends, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. Today it's an episode of Life Update. I completed my egg freezing circle back in July 2025. I went through 6 months of planning, 45 needlework from initial consultation, self-injection, surgery to recovery. It took me a month and a half. This has been one of the intense things I have done for myself. I filmed a lot of this in real time, and now I'm finally ready to talk through the why, the process, and all the unexpected things, including 10 tips I wish I knew and no one talks about. If you or your partner is thinking about egg freezing, currently going through it, or just curious about how the process goes, I'm about to share the unfiltered, messy, funny, and bloated journey right here. I will also review the myth of weight gain and emotional fluctuation. Before diving in, I like to put a disclaimer out. All opinions shared in this video are my own. I'm not a medical professional. If you're feeling unwell or have a health concern, please consult a qualified doctor. This video focuses on my personal egg freezing process, not the cost, so I won't be sharing the specific spending detail. I also recommend checking local resources and your company benefits to see if they cover fertility-related expenses. So let's start with why I decide to freeze eggs. I turned 32 this year. I'm pretty sure I don't want a kid at this very moment or next year. However, I don't want the regret of what if and too late situation later in my life. I want to give the future me some options, some peace, and that's the reason behind this full journey. My research process started at the end of 2024 with a lot of scrolling on Reddit and the Chinese app called RedNotes. ChatGPT also helped me narrow down a lot of stories and pain points. From reading first-hand stories, I knew I want the clinic to be close to me because the process would get more and more involved, which it did. So the first point I would like to stress about is distance, and distance. It really matters, especially the lateral stage. I was going in every other day for ultrasound and blood work. So make sure to find a clinic that's easily accessible to you. After 2 months of research, I was able to narrow down my option to Spring Fertility and NYU Langone. I emailed both clinics to request consultation and was able to schedule appointments about 2 to 3 months after submitting my inquiry. Here is the second tip. If you do have fertility benefits and decide to go with a clinic within the network, make sure your fertility insurance authorization covers the initial consultation date, so your consultation cost is covered. I eventually decided to go with Spring Fertility, and NYU Langone was also a great option, but Spring felt more personal and was closer to me. During my first consultation, the doctor walked me through the entire process with a well-organized PowerPoint and thorough explanations of any of my questions, friendly and professional. I was able to do my baseline ultrasound and blood work during the first visit. That's when I found out the number of follicles I have. The average count at age 32 is around like 15 to 30. I feel quite fortunate that my follicle number was towards the high end of that healthy range. It's not necessary that more is the better, since quality matters more than quantity. But having fewer follicles can mean you might need to go through multiple cycles of egg freezing to reach your desired number of eggs for future family plans. This is because not every follicles contain an egg, and not every egg retrieved can be frozen, and later on, not every frozen egg will be able to successfully thaw and fertilize. It's kind of like a funnel that the number naturally narrows down at each step. During the consultation, I was told to expect some bloating during the stimulation phase as the hormone caused the ovary to enlarge and retain more fluid. The clinic recommends reducing carbs intake and drinking plenty of coconut water or electrolyte-rich fluids to help minimizing the bloating and support hydration balance. Here comes the tip 3. I highly recommend attending multiple consultations at different clinics since everyone's first-hand experience can be varied. After reviewing my baseline health result, a representative from Spring helped me coordinate the next steps and create an estimated calendar based on my menstrual cycle. This is because stimulation phase typically begins on the 2nd or 3rd day of period. Here comes in tip 4 and 5. Tip 4, check your menstrual cycle. It makes planning much easier, and if your timing doesn't line up, you will need to wait for the next one. Tip 5. If you are on birth control, you will need to pause it for a couple of months before starting egg freezing, so make sure to plan that in advance. Spring did make communication easy. They have their own app called Self. They usually respond to my message and questions promptly. I also downloaded Alto Pharmacy app to place my medication order. Pretty straightforward. Then came the meds, the needle, the bloating. I started injection of Gono-F and Menopur on July 9th. These two meds are for egg growing. Honestly, that was the toughest part of the journey. Although I watched the injection tutorial and went to in-person class, I was still terrified. My hands were so sweaty, I could barely hold the needle. I stared at my belly for like 10 minutes and then finally I did it. With the help of numbing cream and ice, I injected Gono-F, the easiest one. Tip 6. If you are nervous about needle or pain like I was, applying numbing cream to the injection area for like 15 minutes, then ice the area for additional 2 minutes before your shot. You can easily find numbing cream on Amazon. After the first injection, I felt so proud. The moment was like a 50 success of the entire journey right there. Then there were another 10 minutes of staring at my belly, holding Menopur in my hand before I finally did it again. Menopur did sting a little bit more. After the first day, I continued with 2 daily injections around the same time daily. Every 3 days, I visited the clinic for a blood draw and ultrasound to monitor progress. During the first 3 days, I didn't really notice any changes. I even went to a boat party on day 2. I didn't drink alcohol though, even though my doctor said moderate drinking is generally fine, but I chose not to. I started feeling a little bit bloated after 4th day of injection. I noticed I was no longer be able to comfortably fit into a dress I usually wear, but no noticeable emotional swing until July 13. Day 5, it was the day I teared up because I laughed too hard. Yep, I was crying and laughing at the same time on a meme. Now I look back, it wasn't even that funny. But I could not stop my tears. My partner was like, "What's happening?" I look at him laughing and saying, "Hormones finally kicked in." It was the first and only time I felt that emotional fluctuation through my journey, so it wasn't that bad for me. Also, I asked my partner to help me with the injection on the day as well. So tip 7 from the experience, try to do the injection yourself. You know your body the best, and usually it hurts less when you are the one controlling the needle. July 14, day 6. I spent the whole day feeling pretty dizzy. The morning I went in for my ultrasound and blood work. My biggest follicle had grown to 10 centimeter, getting closer but still away from the 18 centimeters threshold needed for egg retrieval. What I learned today was that the range for egg retrieval is from 18 to 23 milliliter. You don't want them to be premature, and you don't want them to be like too overcooked. July 15, day 7, I was feeling low energy, but nothing too out of the ordinary. July 16, day 8, I went into clinic for an ultrasound and blood draw. Was told that I can start adding the 3rd injection, cetrotide, in the morning, which is to hold egg in place until retrieval. Also, starting on this day, I went into the clinic every other day for a blood draw and ultrasound monitoring. July 17, day 9. That morning, I had to add cetrotide to my routine, so total 3 self-injection per day. The cetrotide needle was longer, thicker than Menopur and Gono-F. A whole new level of fear and a whole new skill unlocked. After finishing that injection, I was sweating again, and I feel nervous that I have to do this every morning. July 18, day 10. Out of curiosity, I asked the nurse if I could use Menopur needle and syringe instead of the cetrotide set. Since both are subcutaneous injection under the skin but above the muscle, to my surprise, she said yes. I was like, why wasn't this option mentioned earlier? My guess is that this could be a patent or design reason, or it might be for optimal medication delivery. I'm not a medical professional, so I can't say for sure. So tip 8 is that if you are feeling nervous about the thicker, longer cetrotide needle, ask your doctor or nurse if you can use Menopur needle and syringe instead. This might make the injection less intimidating. July 19, July 20, day 11 to 12. Feeling really tired. The bloating and fatigue have definitely kicked in. I honestly feel like I had 2 bunches of grapes hanging on my lower belly. I could not wait for the checkup, hoping the doctor gives me the green line for the trigger shots. From my initial research, some people have their egg retrieval on the day number 8, so I was actually feeling quite frustrated. July 21, day 13. Today could have been the day, but unfortunately it wasn't. I was really disappointed when I got the call from the clinic. They said I will have to wait until tomorrow for the trigger shot, which means still 3 injection for the day 13. And this is it. Still no trigger shot, no trigger shot. I recorded a video since day 11 of July 22nd, day 14. Finally, it was a trigger shot day. Today is the day for the trigger shot, and then probably gonna be dead for 1 to 2 days. Then I was starting to recover. Yay. I took the last dose of Citrotide in the morning, and no additional Gonal-F or Menopur was needed in that afternoon. Nurse called me to let me know that my egg retrieval surgery was scheduled for July 24th at 10 a.m. Since the trigger shot must be administered exactly 36 hours before the procedure, I need to give myself the shot at 10 p.m. that night. Everything went smoothly until the trigger shot. The syringe has a narrow built-in needle, and to get to the medication out, the needle first has to pierce the rubber cap, which makes it less sharp. When I tried to inject it, it wouldn't go in for a good few seconds. Once it finally did, the narrow design made it hard to push the medication. Honestly, it was a bit of a mess. So tip number 9, ask your doctor if you can use Menopur needle and syringe for the trigger shot. Another option is that to have your partner hold the syringe while you focus on the pushing. July 23rd, day 15, I had my blood draw in the morning and I was feeling pretty okay, just a little bit bloated. Grateful there were no needle needed for the rest of the day. Actually, no more self-injection needed after the trigger shot. So I was getting ready for the next day's 10 a.m. surgery. No food for 8 hours before and no water for 4 hours. Excited and a bit nervous for the big day. July 24th, surgery day. Today is the day. We're about to head out to the clinic and to do some prep work, then start the egg retrieval process. Yeah, we finally made it here. Kind of nervous, kind of tired, and everything will go smoothly. And see you later. I got there at 8:45 a.m., changed into procedure clothes, had my blood pressure checked, and answered a few routine questions before they put an IV line in. The doctor and anesthesiologist came by to say hi, and then it was time to go in. On the bed, they placed a respiratory tube in my nose and asked a couple safety questions like, what's my birthday? Why was I there? The anesthesiologist told me he was about to push the meds and asked me to take 3 deep breaths. And then I lost consciousness. The next thing I remember, a nurse was calling my name. I gurgly said, "Can I sleep more?" After about 10 minutes, I feel more alert. The nurse bought me a cracker and apple juice and asked if I want to see my partner there. I said yes. Seeing him made me feel much more relieved, and they monitored me for another 30 minutes. Just change back to my normal clothes. I definitely feel bloated. I can see the bloating on my stomach. Hopefully things are gonna go smoothly. Probably still gonna go a little bit downhill, but then we'll uphill from here. Then we took an Uber home. I was able to walk slowly, but couldn't straighten my back much. My ovaries were definitely feeling the gravity. Back home, I feel bloated and took some ibuprofen, then drifted off to sleep again. For dinner, I had sushi, and I was really happy because I still had an appetite. That's a wrap on my egg freezing journey. Looking back, the first couple of days after retrieval were definitely the hardest. I felt super bloated, couldn't straighten my back, and honestly, a little bit bored during the recovery. So tip 10, drink a lot of coconut water or electrolyte water and rest a bunch. Listen to your body, take some time off, or pick a couple shows so you don't feel bored as I did. So by day 5 after the surgery, I actually feel 10 times better. Now it's time for me to review the myth of weight gain during egg freezing. My weight did not really change. When I feel most bloated, I saw a 2 pounds of weight gain on the scale, but I'm pretty confident it was water weight, which I lost within a week post-procedure. I got a call and report in the app from the clinic 5 days after the surgery date. In the end, it was very successful. My doctor told me it's definitely exceed her expectation. Lastly, I want to express my gratitude toward my partner who was by my side every step of the way. He mixed every single medication for me and came to every single clinic visit, making this challenging journey so much more manageable and supportive. If you're considering egg freezing or going through it, I hope my story gives you some insights and reassurance. Thank you so much for watching. I love to hear your experience in the comment. Remember, you're not alone in this process.